Alright, let's see how long this video lasts. I don't have too much space on my microphone, and I haven't even decided what this video is going to be about. But I thought I would give my thoughts about Andrew Tate, who you probably know or have heard about because a couple years ago he went super viral. I think he went viral on purpose. He was doing a bunch of podcasts and saying very inflammatory things, which I think is much like Donald Trump did during his first election, or pretty much first when he beat Hillary. So if you watch Charisma on Command did a good video about Hillary and Trump and the mistakes Hillary made and the tactics Donald Trump used, where one of them was saying very crazy stuff or inflammatory stuff, and then the media went crazy and the people went crazy. And as a result, there was insane amounts of press about him, and he just sort of tricked everyone in the system into believing he was a real contender when actually most people, he wasn't a real contender. And then all of a sudden he was. So it was very tactical. And I think that Andrew Tate did something similar when he rose to immense fame just a few years ago. He went on podcasts. I don't know. He made the machete. He was constantly, I don't know. Yeah, inflammatory speaking, exaggerating, sort of playing a character. And I think the timing or whatever Western culture was sort of ready to discuss, the woke movement, and we've had 10 years now since 2016 where there's been great fear, with cancel culture and that type of stuff. People have in the West have become, I think, more scared to, upset anyone or being canceled, saying things that suddenly are out of style, so to say. You know, back in the day, people calling people retard and all those kinds of words. I've seen people censored on YouTube, so let's see how my channel goes just after dropping that word. But things have changed quickly, and I think with the Me Too movement and that type of stuff, and also the movement of woke things, that people, especially a couple years ago, were super afraid because the landscape is shifting so quick. So whatever might be politically correct today is actually the greatest sin 2 years from now, And then the way it was done was going through old videos, and then I guess some celebrities got canceled for doing blackface 10 years earlier, or like resurfaced videos and that type of stuff. So I think people got scared, and I think it was a necessary movement, though. I believe in pendulum and balance, like karmic balance and whatever, cosmic balance. So I do believe that the pendulum swings back and forth, and it was due time for a correction, and then I think it's an overcorrection, And I think the pendulum is starting to swing back, and I think Andrew Tate came at like a very specific point where the timing was just, So I think a lot of people, they enjoyed hearing him, stop with the woke nonsense and, yeah. Let me think what I think about him. I do believe a lot of what he's preaching is very true. He preaches a lot about masculinity, and I do think he has a lot of that true. However, I believe, here's my belief, I think that the masculine and feminine are like energies. And I think that both women and men have masculine and feminine energies. And I think it's important to develop in both aspects. And I believe for men and also for women alike, I believe it first start with your gender. So if you're a man, I believe you first need to develop your masculinity, which I'll just generalize as robustness, stoicism, getting the job done regardless of how you're feeling, sacrificing yourself for others, courage, having courage to face your fears, and taking accountability in order to help others around you and lift others up and be a leader is what I believe the standard masculine energies are for. And I think men need that as soon as possible, especially around the time where you're 16, 17, 18. I think the military and that type of stuff, doing some service, martial arts, that type of stuff allows you to nourish and also be in control of your masculinity, which also includes combat and that type of stuff, or confrontation. It's very important, sort of, that just say that your balls drop and that they keep dropping or being dropped. Vulgar metaphor, but yeah, there's something to that. And I also think that with this movement in the West, and also with feminism correcting many things correctly, I think the pendulum has swung to where masculinity has been at the like a punching bag, that masculinity has been pointed to as the center of all the problems in the West, which I don't think is good. I also think that I think that the rhetoric pits men against women, and that people from a young age, and women specifically, are being told that they're victims. Now, while I believe that everyone, man and female and everyone, is a victim of life, and there's so many ways to see it, that you're victimized and unlucky. But you can also see things the opposite way, which I think is the best way. So I do think that Andrew Tate, I think he's sort of a proponent for masculinity, but not femininity. I think he has almost 100% in, he's like a masculinity construct. What do you call it? Like a masculinity concentrate, like drops of pure masculinity, which I don't think is the way. I don't think it's the way necessarily that you want to play your life, because the feminine aspects are, nurturing, softness, or a soft touch. Caring and empathy, I would say, is a very feminine trait, which is the superpower of women, or the feminine. And I think that men and women are created for each other, and there's a holy yin and yang to it. And just having one part of it in society or whatnot is not the way to go, I believe. But here's why I'm going to say something here, is because I personally believe that another superpower is being able to get motivation and inspiration and knowledge from anyone. I think Dan Pena put this on to me, or whatever. I saw him. He had like a wall of his idols, not idols, but people who had inspired him. And he had all sorts, Stalin was there, I think, and all sorts of stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that he's a communist and he wants to restore the Soviet Union and whatever, but it means that there's some parts of Stalin, or something Stalin did, that inspired him personally, and he extracts motivation from that. And I believe we all should be the same way. I personally do that. I believe I can get inspiration from anyone, without adopting their worldview wholly or their way of conducting themselves or whatnot, but I believe it can fetch inspiration. And there are quite a few things that Andrew Tate have said, especially regarding business and workouts, which I have enjoyed or taken inspiration from. For instance, getting up and doing the job regardless of how you feel. Going to the gym or providing your services or selling, no matter how you feel. Because sort of life is a bitch, life is war, that type of stuff. And I really enjoyed that because I came over it during a period in my life where I needed that. And that discipline, the ethos of discipline and the pushing for discipline, I really like that and am able to get inspiration from that. So, in regards to on his views on women, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with, yeah, I believe men and women are created for each other and we are supposed to fill each other's out, you know, like yin and yang. The one is incomplete without the other. And yeah, I think Andrew Tate has in some ways sort of married his brother. His brother is his life partner. You got two men, they're family, and they're kicking ass, and um, but there's not much of a feminine touch in that house, and I think they're devaluing that. But I also heard him say, in regards to women as nurturers and carers and their superpowers. But you can get different versions of him, I find. I mean, you can have stuff. I believe you could put up a video reel of clips of Andrew Tate where he will definitely seem like the worst person ever. And I believe you can do the opposite. So, yeah. So that's sort of my view on him. I'm not, yeah. I take inspiration from certain things he says, and I completely disagree with other things he says. And that's the same with almost every political or controversial figure ever. I do think that I, in some way, could get inspiration from them, and in other ways, disregard. And I think that's how you do it. I think it's the best way to do it. Then you collect things, and you make mistakes, and then you correct, and you take inspiration. And personally, I listen to a lot of the Andrew Tate workout stuff and sort of like motivations to get your ass out of the gutter and trench warfare and that type of stuff for a period where I went to the gym every day and I used that for fuel. And then another role model or other YouTubers and whatnot came into my understanding, or my focus. And I listened to them and did the same thing. So it's just periods. So yeah, I'm not for this thing of if someone has done something bad or something horrible, then that means their entire, existence is horrible. I actually, honestly, fully honestly believe that there's evil and good in all of us. Pure evil and pure good in all of us. I honestly believe that. And whoever choose your person, I don't know, Nelson Mandela or Mother Teresa or whoever you think is perfect, if you were to see the worst thing they ever did, thought, or said to anyone, then you would be absolutely horrified, I think, and you would think they're a horrible person, unless you know that we're all flawed in the worst ways as humans, and that's just a part of it. So, yeah, I'll conclude. I think for men, it's very important to cultivate your masculinity and be proud of that, not excessively proud, and also cultivate your femininity, and I guess be proud of that. But do not put the cart before the horse, because society tells us men, or Western society a lot, that a crying man is the most attractive thing, and a man who is feely and soft men are the most attractive. And then I think you'll quickly come to find that that's not the primary thing that women are looking for, or society as a whole value in men, even though that's what's being said. So, yeah. No, I think the first important part is cultivating your masculinity and then integrating femininity in a good way. So I know for myself that I wouldn't even shed a tear ever, until I was, I don't know, 16, and I could allow some tears to come out whenever I see those videos of soldiers coming home to their kids, or some wedding, what do you call it, proposals too. That sort of gets me. I get touched, and yeah. As far as the other crying, I don't know the last time I cried. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't unlocked the whole thing, but I think, yeah, there's probably parts to it, because some men bottle everything up and then just implode, I think, or whatever. So you got to have both. I believe in balance. I believe that too much of one thing is never good. And yeah, this whole yin yang thing, I believe it's a good thing, and it's a true thing. So I will conclude it there.